and welcome back to All Things Lord of the Rings with your host Alex, also known as Solinus Dracone. Sorry about the sporadic releases here. Y'all have been super kind and helpful, but anxiety and mild depression are cruel mistresses, and I don't often get shit done. I'm trying to get back on the wagon, though. But enough about that, on with the story. So, for the last 9 episodes, we've been focusing on a very specific pair of people, sort of zooming in to the narrative to cover the story of the First Age super couple, Beren and Luthien, or Berian as I like to call them. We had to do this because their story is important to the lore, but now it's time to zoom back out to the larger picture. Today's subject, the last great mustering of the houses of men and elves in Beleriand. So, in the days after Berian's triumph over Morgoth, the rest of Beleriand, both elven and human, began to get a little bit more heart. It was made clear from Berian's exploits that Morgoth was not completely immune within Angband, and Maedhros, the coolest of the 7 sons of Fëanor, thought it was a good time to try to rally everyone together again. He knew that none of them stood a chance alone in taking on the Dark Lord, and so he started to send out raid invites to all the guild members. Trouble is, the Oath of Fëanor had many ways of screwing over the plans of any of the 7 sons, especially since Celegorm and Corufin pulled that crap in Nargothrond. Orodreth, you remember him, Finrod's nephew, was in charge there now, and he reckoned his people could do just fine protecting their own kingdom by the usual secrecy and stealth. He certainly wasn't about to come running to the call of any of Fëanor's brood. A single prince of Nargothrond did come out against Orodreth's wishes, with a handful of troops. His name was Gwyndor, son of Gilin, who had a bone to pick with Morgoth over the death of his brother Gelmir during Dagor Bragollach. You can well imagine there was little to no help from Doriath, because Thingol had the Silmaril, and Maedhros, being bound by the oath, had to put his name on a petition to return the Silmaril or else. Melian had tried to get Thingol to give the damn thing up, but A, the 7 sons were talking too much hot mess, and B, he lost his daughter to the quest to get the damn gem, and I've got to believe he felt responsible for that one since it was his idea. Also, remember, the Silmarils were the OG Precious. He had one and he wanted to keep it. So he shored up his borders and sent some shitpost back to the sons, who flamed right back and yada yada blah blah elven dick measuring. Only Mablung and Beleg came out of Doriath to help, because they'd be damned if they weren't going to get in on some of this hot action. I should mention, there were pretty much 2 factions forming up here. See, everyone among the elven people disliked the Sons of Fëanor, but the people who did come forth from Nargothrond and Doriath still wanted to fight the good fight, so they hitched themselves to the wagon of Fingon, who was still running Hithlum, and who had agreed to work alongside the 7 for this soiree because he and Maedhros were still BFFs. The other faction, of course, were people directly under Maedhros, who had enough of his own and his brother's people, plus some humans, plus the dwarves were cool with the sons, so they got a pretty good force together. Naturally, though, Turgon up in Gondolin had gotten wind of it, and he wasn't about to stick his neck out, right? Unfortunately, Maedhros tipped his hand a little early, deciding to take some time to clear the orcs out of Dorthonion as well as some of the other northern regions. This tipped off Morgoth that a coalition was forming, and so he had time to get some plans together to deal with the rising threat. And remember, Morgoth had spies everywhere. So, having gotten together all that they were going to get, Fingon and Maedhros' plan was that Maedhros and his people were going to strut loud and proud in the east, swinging some nuts to get Morgoth to send out his armies, and then Fingon was going to sweep in from behind, from the west, and they would smash the enemy between them. That was the plan, anyways, and the signal for Fingon to begin his attack was going to be a beacon going off in Dorthonion. Things did get a little rough, though, because Maedhros got styled out by some treachery in his midst, one of Morgoth's spies shouting that Angband was attacking first, which wasn't the case. So Fingon was a little worried. But just at that moment, something awesome happened. Rolling up out of the south, Turgon showed up with 10,000 soldiers. Completely unexpected, but man was that good news. And the cheers went up. The day has come! We're gonna get the Dark Lord! And so on. Would you believe Morgoth had a plan for this too? Morgoth always had a plan. So he sent out another fake-out raiding party to get Fingon to rush out as well and completely screw up the plans for the pincer attack. It's at this point I should briefly mention one of the humans who showed up under Fingon's banner was Hurin, someone whose name has come up before and will come up again. He saw this attack for the obvious lure that it was, and urged everyone not to meet the attack because this was clearly a setup. Of course, Morgoth guessed that someone would have more brains than that, so he had a fake-out set up within the fake-out. See, the head dude in charge of Morgoth's forces in the west had strict orders to make Fingon's army attack by any means necessary, so they rode up with tokens of parley and showed off one of the captives they took during Dagor Bragollach, Gelmir, son of Gilin, who they had roughed up pretty hard, and said, "Hey guys, we got more like this where we came from. Better hurry or we'll do this to all of them," and then chopped off the poor prisoner's head, after cutting off his hands and feet. Gelmir's brother Gwyndor watched all this happen from the front lines, and he wasn't waiting any longer. So he led a charge, which got all the others in Fingon's army riled up, and it was on. Now, Fingon's army was so pissed off and full of beans that they almost beat Morgoth's scheme to overwhelm them. Gwyndor's army rolled over Anfauglith like a tidal wave of righteous fury, right up to the gates of Angband, which they knocked down, and Morgoth was practically pissing himself. But they had ridden too far ahead of Fingon's main forces, and so all but Gwyndor were slaughtered. Now it was really on, and the Dark Lord sent out his whole army from all the secret little nooks and crannies he had dotted about all of Thangorodrim, and kicked Fingon's ass back. That's when Nernaeth Arnoediad, the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, began. And that is where, for today, I'm going to have to cut it. I'd go on, but in the middle of writing this script I saw that there was so much more to go that I couldn't, in good conscience, try to cram it all into one part. I'll be back next week with the conclusion of the battle. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and or leave a comment with your thoughts. Thank you all for watching. Once again, I am Alex, also known as Solanus Dracone, and this has been All Things Lord of the Rings. Goodbye.